Hi guys, my name's Seb Tudor, I'm the man on the Silver Mountain, and welcome back to Conan Exiles. Now, today, we were talking before, we were speculating about some of the interesting stuff that could happen in the lead up. I suggested that there might be certain things that get cut, certain things that get kept, but hopefully they would come in after launch. And I suggested that we're going to see a certain number of things that are going to cascade and whatever else. But literally about an hour ago, as of recording this video, I'm recording this video on Friday the 16th, to go up for kind of next week. But ultimately, we've got a post from Funcom saying this is what's going to happen at launch and this is what might happen afterwards in terms of features that are going to be in the game. So whilst I'm up here doing the third purge proof base in all of its glory, I wanted to come and take a look at this, see what was there, see what they're talking about. Now, first off, they point out that I'm going to be summarizing elements as well. I might quote from it a little bit, but otherwise I'm probably going to be summarizing a fair amount. And so, as a result, I'm going to be looking through. I've got the post open on my phone, so I'm sorry if I keep looking down. I'm sorry if I keep just pausing and standing here. In fact, look at Motsum. Look at his pretty face with the wall behind him. That huge fucking wall made of foundations. Because I wanted to test, in regards to those people who are like, the fuck is he building a wall out of foundations? We don't really get to easily test the hit points of various pieces of wall, various pieces of other stuff. And when I blow stuff up, when I've done like munitions tests in the past, the foundations are always the things that are left at the end. So I wanted to see what these would do, you know, how helpful they would be overall. And that's why I wanted to build the entire wall, entire structure, to one extent or another, out of foundations, just to see if it really makes that much of a difference. But anyway, guys, that's beside the point. So the first thing in the post that they say is that, you know, they're definitely coming for May 8th for PC, PS4 and Xbox One, and they've only got 3 months, give or take, until the big day, and so as a result they've had to work out exactly what they need to make functional for the launch version. Obviously they already talked about the gold version of the game, like the gold build, which will go onto discs and things, but now they need to decide exactly what's going to be there in regards to content ready for the first the first like day one patch that will include everything that the launch version is supposed to have. In which case they're going, okay, well, this is what they're doing. There's going to be a dev stream at some point this Friday, or the day that I'm recording this video, sometime this evening. I'm recording this in the middle of the day, so I don't already have all of their comments on that, so I might do another video for the next one along from where I am right now, to talk about kind of any other comments and things that they make in that video. But then again, we might also have the new combat stuff and some of the other perks and things, perk system and things by that point to mess around with. So we'll see how that goes. But anyway, I'm going to go through this list of features that they've said are absolutely coming with the launch build of the game. So the first major features that are coming with the game, besides all the stuff that we've already got in the game at the moment, the swamp and volcano biomes. And here we know where the volcano is. It's over there. But it looks like they've expanded it. And then we were right. The swamp biome is off down the riverway that leads through the southernmost part of the exiled lands. It's off to the east of that. It doesn't look like the swamplands come up next to the volcano, which is a surprise to me because I thought it would have gone all the way up. But as a result, that means that there is another quarter kind of quadrant of the map there that is just empty, that hopefully they will add something to later on. In which case they've said, yes, we've got all of this stuff coming that's going to be full of new monsters, new crafting materials, weapons, armor, new locations, new building stuff, and all that jazz. And it's going to be accessible from the other side. And then the volcano biome, which is a smaller biome comparatively, that's going to be added in the north, which is probably going to be more for the function of inserting the lizard people that they've talked about and stuff like that as well. Then they go, new combat system, we've already shown it off. It's a total overhaul. There's going to be some HUD stuff and some other little bits and pieces coming with that as well, which we've seen in the last dev stream, which I've already talked about and I kind of brushed over whilst I was doing some exploring. Then the next thing that they talk about is the purge, and of course, this is why I've been building these huge structures. This is why I've been building stuff, so that we can test the purge and see what it is. And so what they say about this, because I actually want to read this bit out. The purge was one of the features we talked about early on, and it's been important to us to make sure we get it ready simply because it's a key ingredient to closing the gameplay loop, which is what I've kind of been saying all along and what I've been hoping for. The purge was initially conceived as NPC armies coming from outside the exiled lands to attack players. As we decided that the team working on this should spend more time polishing and optimizing the general AI on all creatures and NPCs in the game, we had to go back and rescope this feature in order to make sure we could launch with solid implementation. Ultimately means that they've downscaled it to one extent or another to make it more operable for the beginning of the game, for the launch. The important thing to close the gameplay loop is to have a purge mechanic that sees creatures and NPCs present a danger to your base and various settlements. In PvP, you already have the danger of players coming in to attack your city, and you need to build smart, and you need to set up defenses to keep attackers at bay. In PvE and single player, we haven't had such a threat, which means there has been a certain lack of meaning to building a fortified base. The purge mechanic at launch will see creatures and NPCs attack your base even when you're not logged in, although I would imagine that this is probably talking about servers rather than my game here where I'm playing in solo, because if the game isn't running on my system, then the instance of this setup, this server setup, can't be running. So I would imagine that, again, it's if you're playing solo like I am for experimenting with stuff, showing stuff off, good chance that this doesn't completely apply, but we'll have to see. Maybe they'll have a random kind of thing running in the background each time you start up your game and it'll twig something. I don't know. Probably not, but we'll have to see. And so you need to consider traps, walls, thralls, and other defenses. It can be a lone hyena trying to knock down your door, or it could be a group of bandits coming to break down your walls. The purge mechanics will be active on all official servers, and private server admins can choose to turn it on or off on their hosted games. So in other words, in my game here, I can decide to turn it on or off. I would imagine that maybe there's a frequency thing as well to make them either more hostile, more regularly attacking your base and stuff. But we'll have to see. That's the specific, the one way or the other of it. The thing that stands out to me though is that, yeah, to those of you that were saying, oh, these seem over the top, they are over the top. These purge-proof bases have been deliberately over the top to test out big, glaring issues and mechanics, and whether or not the NPCs in the purge will be able to deal with them with their AI and with whatever else we've got going for us. And so as a result, I will be really interested to see which one of my bases gets completely wiped out. I'm imagining the slave camp down next to the Darfari capital, the cannibal capital, or cannibal temple, is probably going to get wiped clean pretty quick, because it's got fairly low standard walls. It's got a few thrall guards, but not much. In which case, maybe I'll go down there and look at refortifying that before the purge actually launches. But otherwise, the other bases and things like that, it'll be interesting. This one here, big walls, lots of defenses, a slightly weakened defense though compared to some of the others, but there you go. The others out in water, we'll have to see how that all pans out. But anyway, I'm getting stuck on the purge because it's what I've been looking forward to. Farming though, farming is apparently going to be in there, where they're saying that ultimately they're going to be looking at adding ways to farm crops and so on and so forth, doing things like non-aquatic plants, for the most part, using things like fertilizer and compost heaps and things like that as new kind of specific things to build, so that you can generate crops, have more stuff there. They're adding a new religion, because they've talked about two, but so far there's only one mentioned in here, and that's Decketo, which is one that didn't occur to me personally, but that I understand why this one's here for a couple of reasons. And it's that we are under a new religion, where they've said two, but they've only mentioned one here, which means that maybe this will be the only one that gets in, and the other one will be post-launch, maybe. But we are adding an entirely new religion to the game with a brand new avatar, Decketo. She is a dual-natured goddess who is worshipped in Stygia as a goddess queen of lust and fertility, while feared in the Black Kingdoms as the goddess of death. She is both terrible and beautiful, kind of Kali-esque in some ways, I guess. This edition represents an entirely new religious path with 3 tiers of altars, special crafting ingredients, and items you can only create when following Decketo. We look forward to showing you more of this as we get closer to launch. Also, by the way, on that note, I found the ice giant that teaches you how to become an Ymir worshipper up in the frozen north, which I completely forgot about until reading that just now. So at some point, I'll take you up there and we'll go and talk to him. He's a lovely guy, doesn't say much, but he tells you how to be a worshipper of Ymir. But yeah, so I'm interested in regards to this, because Goddess of Death, fine, all of them have weapons. Goddess of Lust and Fertility, though, I don't know what that could mean in terms of what items she's going to be providing. That's going to be an interesting thing to see. I'm still obviously hoping that maybe the last god that they touch on, possibly post-launch, will be Zotli, because shape-shifting into Cthulhu is wonderful. But we'll have to see. The next thing, which is something they've talked about and kind of added more recently, was Warpaint, which is something that they have now said is going to be confirmed for launch, and it's going to be a way to kind of improve your attributes rather, by painting yourself in different ways, which is another means of customization for yourself, another means of customization that will add up with the new combat system, the new perk system, the armor modification and weapon modifications that are already in the game. So that's something that I'm looking forward to. And then they're saying that it will kind of rub off over time, seemingly, because they're saying here cultural style Warpaint will last about a week in real time, but stat boosting Warpaint will fade after about an hour, so it could be a good idea to pack extra patterns. So in other words, you're potentially going to have to reapply and reapply just to get those boosts, just so that you're not painting yourself permanently for that ever-present bonus. So that's going to be interesting, see how that pans out, especially in PvP, because having people potentially change their war paints if they can between engagements or something like that is going to be an interesting thing. Now, the next thing, I feel like this has been kind of put in because of something else that we'll talk about later on, and that is fast travel. We know a lot of you really want a way to quickly get around the world, so we've gone ahead and added fast travel. Scattered around the world, you will discover obelisks, and once you have interacted with them, you'll be able to fast travel to them from your base. In order to do that, you need to build a map room. And as you discover more obelisks, you can unlock new areas that you can fast travel to. Now, that's going to be useful, it's going to be helpful, but at the same time, I feel like it's there because later on they talk about mounts and things and how they probably won't be in, as far as they can see, they're not going to be in the launch build of the game. So I feel like this is a case of, we haven't been able to put in mounts, we haven't been able to put in that way of traveling across the landscape at a greater speed by default. So what we're going to do is we've already got teleport in the game because admins can do it. And what we're going to do is create this fast travel place so that you can very swiftly move, not to random locations like an admin can, but to specific locations that they have laid out for you. The next thing, the perk system, they've already been showing some of this off the same way they showed it off with the new combat changes and stuff like that. And so, There are 35 perks spread across 7 attributes, and you're going to want them all, is what they say, and that's probably quite true. But obviously, where we've got, if we take a look at our stuff, where is my stuff? Why are the things not showing up for me? Huh, something's broken in my game. But with the, obviously we've got only a certain number of points and whatever else, so there's that. But then other content and features coming in. They talk about additional things being shifted around with new items, new furniture, new building pieces, throwable lures to attract monsters that for hunting purposes, new potions, improvements to things like the journey interface, this thing that they've talked about before, because obviously like I can't see what this is at the moment. It's very vague. There's not, even though this is more direction, there's still a lack of direction in certain elements of it, so there's that. But then otherwise, other content and features that they're talking about for the most part are they're mostly just going the stuff that's already in the game that we're not talking about in terms of new features, placeable items, buildable things, whatever else. We're not just forgetting about those whilst doing all these other new features. We're still going to be adding to them. But then they go features and content not coming in for launch. And some of these are a bit sad, but I completely understand why. But there's a very important thing that they say at the very end, which makes me so happy. But anyway, let's get through this list first. Mounts and pets. Unfortunately, we will not be launching with mounts or pets. Mounts were one of the most requested features, and we have spent a lot of time trying to make it work for Conan Exiles due to technical limitations with the way the game loads and streams the game world. We were unable to include a feature that allowed players to move over a certain speed, which is where I think they've instead added in the fast travel to make it convenient for us so that we can maneuver and shift around the map where we need to, but at the same time we're not going to break the highest speed, we're not going to cause a problem. And obviously I personally just wanted mounts for the utility. I didn't care how fast they went so much. If their movement was just a constant sprinting speed so that it just didn't cost stamina for me to move at that speed at a kind of jarring pace, I'd kind of be okay with that. Or just a slightly faster than sprinting speed, by half of pace or something would have been nice. But I wanted it for the capacity to maybe take more than one thrall at a time, or carry more stuff with me without an issue. Or the siege mount idea, I wouldn't imagine an elephant would go an awful lot faster than it does when it's charging at us when we're fighting one. But having that to tackle an enemy gate and knock the gate down, I still feel would be something that would be cool. So, it depends on what they want to do with this, and between other bits and pieces that they've been doing, it's a tough thing for them to try and manage and work out in the 3 months that they've got with all the other things that they're still working on. So fair enough. They've tried to make it open and accessible for us in terms of the fast travel system instead, to replace the functionality. So I can't be upset with them about, but that was such an important thing that needed to be there, because they've thought of another way around it. But obviously, I personally would have liked a mount more for the sake of the extra kind of bonuses I would get from having an extra inventory, or from having whatever else it provided me. So, there's that. But then they say pets is another animal-specific thing we also wanted to do. We have done a lot of the groundwork, and it's certainly possible that we can add them at some point after launch, but we decided to prioritize polish and other features ahead of launch. There were also concerns about server performance, that too many players having too many animals and human thralls would have a massive impact on servers. To minimize risk for launch and to focus on other core features, we've decided to put this on hold. Again, that's fair enough. Maybe the thing that I would think would be having a kind of more kenneling system. So the thralls, you can human thralls, you're going to potentially have a large number of them, defending your walls and things like that. But when it comes to pets, like specifically going, well, yeah, you need to build like pet homes for these creatures so that they are trained, so they are looked after, because they're going to have different needs from a human that can go and actually sort itself out once it's been broken. Sorcery, the next thing that isn't coming in, which I know a lot of people were looking forward to sorcery for things like the necromancy angle, where they mentioned before that you would be able to kill a person, raise their body as a kind of walking skeleton or a dead zombie like thrall, and get it to go and do stuff that a normal thrall would do. I know that there were a lot of people that were looking forward to creating their evil wizards tower with their army of undead protecting it, and stuff like that. But that's unfortunately something that isn't going to be happening. As far as they say here, that what they say is, we started sowing the seeds of sorcery with the release of glass orbs that worked as grenades. Brewing alchemical potions and poisons can also be said to be a kind of sorcery in the Conan world. We're expanding the types of potions we can create using alchemy, and you'll also be able to craft special throwable lures to attract specific monsters and creatures. Sorcery, as initially pitched, though, will not make it into the game, but some elements will. Fast travel system is teleportation magic, but it doesn't require corruption to fuel it. We have also added explosive and poisonous gas orbs that deliver some of what we planned for the sorcery system. Ultimately, we were in a situation where we could either focus on development capacity, on improving the combat system, or splitting up the team to work on combat and a fully realized sorcery system. We chose to focus on the combat as we felt it was a more integral aspect of the Conan experience. It was a very difficult decision to make, but now that the new combat system is almost ready, we feel that it was indeed the right decision, and that a more fun, tactical and visceral combat system is something the game really needed. And I would agree with that, but again, there's a part of me here that's like, there are going to be some people that are very disappointed by this. I know, especially actually, Hannah was looking forward in various ways to dabbling with the magic system, the sorcery system. But again, what they've said here is that they've done a lot of build-up, they've done a lot of stuff, put a lot of stuff into the game that was kind of tangentially attached to the sorcery system, but the raising undead thralls, doing actual magic, having to corrupt yourself so that you then gain greater power, that's not going to be in the game. At launch anyway, which sucks for a lot of different reasons, but at the same time, what we are getting is some of the more important parts of the sorcery system, and the stuff that would be more useful to us in the game at the moment. The settlement system. The settlement system was an idea we had early on to add more NPC life to bases, especially on PvE servers. It was never clearly defined, but we had some high-level ideas. Many of the ideas we talked about early on will not make it into the game. Some of the ideas were abandoned because we had to prioritize other key areas, the primary example being enemy AI. A lot of the same coders that would have worked on doing AI for city life had to focus on improving the general and combat AI for enemies, which was far from good enough at launch. I think when they say at launch there, they mean launch of early access. Thankfully, we have made significant strides in that area due to this reprioritization. Keep in mind the version that is live for PC now, over 2 months old, and a lot of progress on NPC pathfinding and general AI behavior has been made since then. Some ideas were abandoned because they didn't work well enough within the framework of a game, and some ideas matured into other features that have since been implemented. For instance, a large part of the settlement system was making thralls more interesting and useful, and some of those features we have added during early access. You can now, for instance, dress them up and equip them with weapons you want them to use, and we have added the ability for thralls to follow you around and help you out in sticky situations. At launch, you will also see monsters behaving in more interesting ways, such as foraging for food, resting up, and so on. So again, There are things that have made it into the game from these ideas, which is great, but it's still not everything that they hope for. And to be fair, though, this was a system that I thought that they were aiming a bit high on anyway, where they were like, well, we want you to be able to have them going from one place to the other and doing this thing and doing that thing and not always, having to live their lives, having guard rotations, things like that. And I was like, that's a really nice idea, but I don't think it's going to make it in. I kind of hoped it did. I was optimistic, but I'm not too surprised that it's not. The things that stand out to me, though, are in regards to the stuff that they have implemented from it, like thralls following you around and stuff like that. Firstly, I'd like to see us being able to have more than just one thrall following us, like reasonably so, because when I've tried to do that, either one of them has then wandered off, or they've got stuck, they've had issues. Obviously, you guys saw me try and take a thrall into a dungeon, and that just didn't work, even though if I'm playing entirely single player and the thrall is there to come and help me out, I'd like to think that I'd be able to take one in there to back me up. So, there's that. But if we're getting these AI improvements that are going to make pathfinding better, they're going to make them more kind of present as NPCs, and if we're going to see more improvements in regards to foraging for food, resting up, and so on in animals and creatures that aren't thralls, or then that potentially means that even in a single player game, you're going to be seeing animals that when you're going to be hunting, you're going to be looking to maybe hunt them when they're resting. NPCs in towns and villages going to rest in an evening means that potentially you've got more of an opening to go in and take thralls. If you've got bandits that are coming with this purge thing, and then they're coming in and coming out, and they have a base that they're operating from, then again, maybe that's a time where if you want redemption, if you want retribution and revenge, and you want to take back the stuff that they maybe destroyed, stolen from you possibly, or whatever else, then, if they've killed off your thralls, then you hunt them down when they're relaxing at their camp, and you take the same number of thralls back from them, because why not? But then they say... Then they go into looking beyond launch, and they say that for the most part, they've done an awful lot over the last 12 months of early access, including some of the other things, and there's been stuff that they didn't mean to put in, like climbing the orbs and avatar defense domes and things that they've ended adding anyway because we made it apparent that they were needed. Then though, and this is the important part, what they do is say that they make a comment about these features that are coming after, that might come after the early access ends and after the initial launch of the game, full launch of the game happens. What they say is, and this was something I was worried about before, which I thought Funcom would be good on, because I trust Funcom from the number of different games of theirs that I've enjoyed and engaged with them in. I trust them as a developer, unlike some, but here is black and white their statement on stuff that comes in after launch. What we do want to make very clear is that we will never lock features we have talked about for early access behind paid content updates. If at some point after launch we can implement mounts, sorcery, or any other features that we wanted to introduce in early access, we will make sure they are available freely to everyone. And that, to me, is the most important statement that they make throughout this entire thing. Because let's say the servers get improved due to a sudden influx of people looking at this game at launch and going, actually, this is awesome. Yeah, people that maybe have slagged the game off so far, people that have maybe kind of rolled their eyes at it, then coming back and seeing that actually it's turned into something awesome. Huge influx of cash, potentially more kind of potential for then servers to be developed, for Funcom to do more with the game afterwards, and it's something that I'm hoping for, something that I'm looking forward to, seeing what they decide to add afterwards, because I don't think they're just going to hit kind of the end of early access and then go, yep, we're done. We take a look at Subnautica, for instance, you know, they've hit the end of their early access period. Their full launch of the game has gone out into the world, and then what? About a month or so afterwards, at most, they've gone, yeah, well, now we're actually looking at this other stuff. I have a feeling Funcom are going to do the same. They're going to make sure that everything's polished and maintained, but then once the game goes live, they've got a studio that's dedicated to this game still for the time being, looking at a way that they can continue to improve, continue to add, continue to progress. And so things that they've already added in the groundwork for, like, for instance, the sorcery system where elements have made it in, the other potential god that they've not mentioned here at all, you know, that can come in. It's going to be, you know, other new types of weapon, other new types of biome. As said, there's an entire quadrant of the map that seems to just be empty. Like, it would be, what, if we come here, it's this area up here, because the down here, it's this part down here that's going to turn into the swamp, and then it's this part up here that's going to be the volcano when it's added, like up into this section here. So then we've got this whole area over here, because I believe the top part of the jungle lines up with here, essentially. So, or like, it comes off at an angle, I guess. But then that still leaves this huge swathe of space up here on the other side of the mountains that's just empty. So we can hope for maybe another biome post-launch as well. And as said, that, you know, then that's not something that they've talked about in early access, so they could put that behind a paywall if they wanted to, but I don't see why they would. You know, the more content that they put into the game from all the stuff they've been talking about, surprise new biomes and things like that, even, that's going to draw people towards the game more than not. And then to make additional funds off it, actually doing proper expansions, doing kind of maybe additional dungeons that you could purchase as DLC or other such things, you know, item packs, which again, there's a good chance that they may not do that anyway, because we've got the workshop with all of the creativity of the community. But like, there are other things that they can do to make more money off this game, off this system, instead of just trying to nickel and dime us over like these little things that they've already said that they wanted to put into this game. Like, I reckon if they had maybe started this a year or two, like maybe a year earlier, so they had a year and a half or 2 years on development, then maybe they would have managed more. But obviously they wanted to get in, do this, power through, and then, you know, if they can still then afterwards give me the capacity to go and tame a panther as a pet, then I'll be over the moon. If they allow Hannah the ability to create her own undead army, she'll love it. The settlement system would have just been fun, but I'm not too fussed about that not being there, to be fair, because the important parts of it, customizing thralls and stuff like that, that's, you know, something that's most important. So the only thing that I would maybe, another thing that I would maybe hope that they add, that's not there are lots of mods that deal with this, but one thing that I would maybe hope that they would add would be, that could have come with the settlement system, maybe, would be admin controls for servers to suggest how many thralls you can have in an area, because I know that there are mods that hugely reduce the amount of space that you have to have between different thralls. But if there was a slider depending on what you were running, how you were running it, so that you potentially, you know, deal with that in game without having to go to mods, then you know, that would be good. But it probably won't happen, and the mods are already there if you need them. So, but anyway, guys, I know this hasn't been the most exciting video in terms of me running around, but it's considering this case, I literally sat down after going to get a drink after recording the last video that I sat down to record, and the first notification on my phone was that there was this new post, and I needed to go and take a look and see what it was, and it was everything. It was confirming some of the things that we said were going to come in. It was kind of shattering some of the other ideas, but above all else, regardless of the actual lists of what is coming for launch, what isn't coming for launch, we have now been told definitively by Funcom as well that they will not be putting anything that they've talked about for Conan Exiles thus far behind a paywall. So if they manage to do any of those other things in the future, we're going to get them, everything's going to be cool, and we can just be really appreciative and enjoy the fact that those things are in the game. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. Again, I won't be kind of doing much more since we've been sat here talking for 35 minutes anyway. But one of the next things that I'll be doing is, as I said, I found the ice giant that tells us about Ymir. He's off over that range somewhere, so I'll go and deal with him just to show you where he is on the map. He's over here, the outcast camp. So anyone that wants to go up and take a look beforehand, feel free, and otherwise I'll be heading over there. Also, we've got the Barrow King over here that we still need to find out what kind of blood or what kind of thing is required to open that up. So we'll go and take a look at that at some point as well. And then, yeah, some point over the next couple of weeks, in theory, we're going to be getting the new combat system, new perks and stuff like that for us to take a look at. And so, yeah, then we can tackle it. And I'm going to keep building this here to see. I feel like maybe I feel now maybe because they've had to downsize, they've had to rescope on what they actually mean by the purge. My purge-proof bases are now going to do a much better job of keeping out the enemies that are going to come for us than they would have done before. But at the same time, then it's just proof of concept. We made all of the strategic thinking work better. Yeah, large walls, multiple curtain walls, huge amounts of thralls, large structures built out in water. I don't think we're going to have to worry about siege weapons anymore. So this huge curtain wall with all of those foundation blocks with their large numbers of hit points. Yeah. I mean, there might be explosives. They might carry explosives, but I don't think we're going to have to worry about siege weapons anymore. I'm still going to finish building this just because it's fun. But other than that, maybe I can cut some corners now if they're going to be a little less threatening in terms of siege equipment and explosives. So, yeah. But otherwise, guys, let me know what you think about these lists. I'll take a look at the dev stream later on when they air it this evening on Twitch, and when I'll probably review it again later when it comes to YouTube on the Funcom channel. But then, you know, I'm interested to hear what your thoughts are. Are there things that you're really kind of upset about that aren't coming in? As I said, I know there are a lot of people that are going to be kind of bummed out at the fact that sorcery has been dropped. Do you feel like the fast travel is a good replacement for mounts, considering the issues that they were running into with mounts? You know, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, because to me, the stuff that they've dropped off kind of makes sense. It's the stuff that I had a feeling that they might end up dropping off anyway. But you know, I'm hopeful that everything else gets sorted, and then I'm also hopeful, especially considering they said that it won't be behind paywalls, and if it's coming, it's coming, and it's going to be in the game, one way or the other. Then I'm hoping that they manage to get some of those other things, especially things just like pets. Yeah, I feel like there are ways that pets can be done that won't ruin everything. The other thing that stands out to me, though, is that I realise that this might not be a feature, but they've not mentioned story. Joel Bylos has said that he's got the story all basically drafted out, and he wants to get it done, wants to add more to it. I don't know whether or not that will be in terms of the journal, the kind of the hero's journey thing, and the story providing us a bit more direction towards the journey and stuff. as well. But you know, I'm hoping that the story hasn't just been forgotten and brushed to the side, and that this is the way that it's going to be, including adding in the story with all those other major features that they mentioned. So you know, I'm hopeful, is what I'm saying. This is a good thing that they've come out. They've been very transparent. They've told us what to expect, and now we can either, as with me, I'm going to keep building this purge-proof base, but then after that, I might look at smaller settlements, and how we can defend smaller settlements instead, and then test those out. So we'll test the big bases, we'll test the big concepts, but then I'll build maybe a slew of smaller settlements to deal with animals and how we can set up traps and how we can set up other things as well. Bottlenecks on a smaller scale, taking advantage of water. You know, all those things. I'll try and do those afterwards, maybe, or possibly once the game does launch, and I'll possibly restart this game. I'm in two minds whether or not I will do that or won't do that still. But you know, we'll see about setting up a proper survival series to run things through and see how that goes. But either way, guys, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this list of stuff and what's coming and what isn't. But otherwise, guys, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care. Thank you very much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video or found it interesting or useful, then please drop us a like, share this video, and subscribe for more. And I'll see you in the video tomorrow. Take care.